Today's lesson, we're talking about the key of G major, and we're looking at the open cowboy chords. I've got some PDF gubbins here. First thing that I want to do is show you the difference between G major and C major. They're very, very close, and you'll find that those two keys, they very often change into each other. You can change into the key of G easily from C major, and that's by going up to chord 5 and using that as the new one. So, we're going to talk about the key of G major. I've got a key signature here just to show you. It's good to be able to read your key signatures, guys. If you can read your key signatures, then you can see what kind of sharps and flats that key has got in it. Let me just extend that a little bit better. These lines represent a note, and basically if you put an accidental on it like that, I've put that sharp on the line that represents F, and then what happens is every time you play an F, it has to be an F sharp. So basically, you're stating something right at the beginning. Instead of writing it out every time you hit an F and you want it to be an F sharp, you don't need to do that now because that's what the key signature does for you. But this is going to be the key of G major. So look, these are the notes. So there's my notes. Remember, that's a G there as well. So let me just write these notes out. Now, look, notice I didn't need to put a sharp on there because it's already stated at the beginning. If anybody's a programmer, it's like declaring the variable in some code. So really, all I need to do is add that sharp there, and then you can see that that's a G. So really, that's a G and that's a G. So my favorite way of understanding and really getting to these chords is using the circle of thirds. Now, if you've seen the circle of thirds, then you'll know that I use a mnemonic. We're going to take the first letter of that mnemonic there, like that, and that's our sequence. We can use it for all keys, but because we've got this sharp here, we have to add it on this. So we have to remember that that is where the sharp lives. Every good band deserves fans and cash. So because that's the case, that's going to be my F sharp. I'm just using that mnemonic. Make your own mnemonic up. As long as it makes sense to you, that's all you need to know. This is a circle of thirds. It allows you to spell what I call the full chord. Every chord that we can play triads. That's what we're going to play most of the time. We play triads, 3 notes. But if we want to make them sound a bit spicy, we add the 7th. But if we keep on going through the sequence, we can add interesting notes like 9ths, 11ths and 13ths. And I've done lessons on this, guys. So if you don't know that stuff and you're thinking, what the hell is Ricky talking about? You probably need to go to the circle of thirds video because this is really, really important stuff, okay? My goal with this today is I'm going to show you some shapes. You in no way need to understand the names of these shapes because we're going to follow the map. I'll explain the map in a bit. But wouldn't it be nice to know what chord it is that you're playing? That's why I'm tying this in here, guys. So, cycle of thirds. This is the key of G. I'm going to put this in here. That's my key. That's the root note for chord 1 in the key of G. I've put this stuff here as well so that you can see how this works. If you've seen the circle of thirds lesson, then you will know what this is. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to explain how it works. If we take the G and we just follow the sequence and we go, good band deserves fans and cash every. So I go like this, good band deserves fans and cash every. Now, what have I missed off, guys? Remember, this is the key of G. What defines the key of G? The sharp, F sharp. That's important, guys. So the F sharp that we had there, we need to put that into the equation here so we can see what notes we are going to get. What the circle of thirds does is it jumps over in the tertian movement that chords are formed. Now I have everything I need to understand and express the full chords in the key of G. And it's easy because the Roman numerals are telling me for chord 1, the notes are going to be G is the root note, B is the 3rd, and D is the 5th. Does that make sense? And if I wanted to be clever, I could add that F sharp, and I could see that F sharp is going to be my 7th. So I've got root, 3rd, 5th, 7th. Really cool way for helping you to spell out those chords there. Now, because we've got those notes, we need to be able to put those notes on the guitar. So we've got all those notes. Those are the same notes. But what I've done is I've identified them on the fretboard. And look at the Fs. They're all sharp. F sharps. I've modified them. And so essentially what we have is the scale for G major here. Even though it starts on the open E string, Really, it's coming from here. So we can think of that as the 6th note, that's the 7th note, and that's the root note. That's the first note, okay? So if I play those, I get this. E, F sharp, G. Say it as you play it. And this is just reinforcing. So E, F sharp, which is the 7th note. There's my root note. So that's the G. My A is the open A string. We get a B here at the 2nd fret of the A string. We get the C here at the 3rd fret. Right, we get the D here at this open string. We get the E here. We get the F sharp here. We get the G here again. So we've gone up a full octave on that G there. That's a full octave. And the whole thing starts again. A is there. Now watch this, guys. I know I've put a B here at the 4th fret, but we want to be able to see that because that one, that fretted B on the G string, yeah, and the open B string are the same note, but the timbre of the string is different. Yeah, so that's the same, should be the same note. It sounds slightly out of tune to me, that now. Right, so that's a B and that's a B. Now that's useful because you can substitute your B's there. And then the C here, and then we get the D here, we get the open E, we got the F sharp, and we get the G. This helps us to spell out the whole of the G major scale. So I can go like this. So I've gone up 2 octaves there. That's the home chord. Now, we need to understand this concept, and this is why I call this the Temple of Doom, the Indiana Jones Temple of Doom idea. So if we take that G major there, these are the legal notes for G major. If you put your finger on this note, it's not legal. It's not part of the key. It's an outside note. That's going to confuse your sound. That's going to sound like a bum note. If everybody's in G and you played that F there, everyone's going to go, what are you doing, man? It's an F sharp. So that's the thing. You play the C sharp there, you're going to sound out. And this is what I mean by the whole Temple of Doom thing. If you've seen the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, what happens is he goes into the temple, the floor's rigged. If he steps on certain stones, he can retrieve the golden relic. But if you step on the wrong stepping stones, poison arrows come out and shoot you in the butt. Or the flames come out the side. You know, you've seen the thing with the carcass of the skeleton with the spears through it. And that's tantamount to the same thing as playing the wrong note. The note that isn't in the map. So this is your G major map. Now, I've got a couple of different diagrams here. Put the scale degrees for this in. We've put the root note, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. And then you've got the root, 2nd, 3rd. That double third thing going on there, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and root again. But we're going to look at building the chords. And I want to show you the way that this works is Indiana Jones, just imagine that he realised that it's just like a word search. He's got to decode the ancient manuscripts to find the map of where not to tread so he doesn't get a poison arrow in his backside. So if we go through the chords in the key of G, remember it's G major, we're just going to do the first 6 chords. What about Wobbly Bob? Well, the chords that we get in the key of G are G, A minor, B minor, C, D, and we're going to have E minor. And I'll put that there, chord 7, just in case. F sharp diminished. It's easiest to see in this version here. We get the root 3rd, the 5th, and root 3rd and 5th. And what I want you to be able to see is that you can spell those chords out. But the other way that we can do this is look at the chord G major and think, all right, okay, well, what are the notes in that? Well, I just drew them there because I've learnt over years that if I follow the circle of thirds, I go G, B, D. Well, that's what I said to you earlier on, G, B, D. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to plot those out. I'm actually going to use this map here because I've realised that that map and that map are exactly the same thing. Can you see the pattern? It's exactly the same, guys. So we look at G and we go, well, a G there, 3rd fret. Right, so I'll plonk that in there. There's my G. What else do I need? Do I have any more Gs? Oh, hang on. I've got another G here. And we've got a G here as well. So that's 3 Gs, not the B Gs. That's something completely different. Let me get some colour on job. I'm going to plonk these in here just so that they pop out more because I need you to see the chord shape and I need you to be able to associate what the note is underneath it. So we've got all the G's done. So the next note we want to do is find all the B's. Well, if we look on the A string, A, B. Oh, there you go. So let's grab that one. Got a B there. Have we got a B on this string? D, E, F sharp? No, we don't. G, A. We have a B here. This is worth putting in and just showing you, because you might start to see where your chord shapes come from for other voicings further up as well. After the G shape comes the E shape. So you'll start to see this. But we also have this B here. So we've got a B there and we've got a B there. Okay, so that's the third. Next we need the fifth. Okay. Is there a D on the E string? No. Is there a D on the A string? No. But there is one here. This open position here. So we can see we're spelling it out inside the map. We can have another D here. So we've got a G, a B, a D, a B there. Now that's your classic sort of Bob Dylan G. That's your G shape. But what you can do is double up on that D and you could have this shape as well. So you can be really liberal and you can put the third finger on there and the pinky on there. Then this is why. Because those are just the three notes that you have there. It's just the G, B, D. And that's what we're doing. We're plotting it out. So this is the G shape. I'm going to jump on the guitar actually. So we've got this G chord here. Now this is the grip that I get. But the thing I want you to understand is all those other notes are available to me. Just like I changed that. That's the Dylan G. Yeah, and then putting that third finger on there just means I'm acquiring that note. I'm adding that note to the equation. But remember there was another B here, wasn't there? So I could think to myself, well, hang on, if I've got my G there like that, but I've taken that B out. I've got one here, but what if I want it on this string? I have to change my grip slightly. We'll put that on there. And I can mute out the lower third note. Instead of having that note there, I can mute that string and replace it and throw it up here. Okay, so essentially that's all I'm doing. It's like I'm rearranging the triad. Okay, so that's a really useful way to play that. What I absolutely adore about the key of G is, look at the open strings, guys. Are any of them illegal moves? When I mean illegal moves, are some of those open strings off limits? No, they're not. They're in the pattern. So the beautiful thing is, if I play a G here like this, yeah, I can have that finger off and I'm still playing notes from the scale. So it becomes another name. So we get something completely different, and then I have to tally up what it is that I've got. I've got the root here. If that was open, that would be a second. This is the fifth, this is the root, this is a fifth, this is a root. So this is a G sus2. But it's a muddy G sus2. I think those two notes are too close to each other for it to really, really stand out. Okay, well, I like that sound. I like the sound of a G sus2, so I know that that's an A there. Using an A, an open A there. Well, what if I put it up an octave and then put it into my shape? And look, lo and behold, if I look at that, that's the second fret on my G string. I'm covered with G's. I've got a G there and a G there. I don't need to worry about taking one out of the equation here. So I can play it like this. There's a G sus2. So that over this, listen to it texture-wise. Or, that's nice. Now, what I like to do is state the obvious here, guys. Look at where that first finger was for that G sus2 there. I can move that first finger. It was there for the G chord. I can move it there and I can move it there. So let's just look at that. That's lovely as it is. So look. So there's places and you can hear that I get a melody within the chord. Yeah. So just that. Now, do you need to know the name of it? It's nice to know the names of it. And I could look at my diagram and I could think to myself, so that's going to be a 6. I've got a 6 there. So I've got a G6, I've got a G sus2. But overall, if you don't want to think about that, you just play the shapes. You can do a little run in there. So you can bring ideas from the scale in there. Now another one that I love, 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 love. If you want to get some dexterity going with this, the first finger can play these notes here. The pinky can play these two here. I'm targeting the D string and the G string at the 4th fret. So if I play that chord that I was playing there, I've got this finger that I can take off. I'm going to knock the thin E string out of the equation just for simplicity of sound. So that is my core chord, really. Got that there, but we could put my pinky over there. And that was my 3rd before, and now when I put it here, what is that note there, guys? Can you see on the map? The 7th, yes. And doubling it up here, look, using that note there, the 2nd fret of the thin E string. I can double it up there if I want to. It's a major chord with a major 7, so it's just going to be a G major 7. And it's a lovely way of doing it, but what I do like to do is develop this in and amongst this. Yeah, to get these fingers going, we've got an open D, 2nd fret of the D, 4th fret. We've got the root on the open G string, 2nd and 3rd. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 notes that we can go at there. We're playing a scale within the shape of a chord. Now, you don't have to play the scale, but it's a good finger exercise. That's an interesting one. Looks like a power chord. If I invert it, you get a 3rd, but if we put that inside it, I love this sound. So this map is just wonderful for creating things like that. I'm always really, really, really close to my standard G grip. But those for me are the prime targets. First finger movement across there. Yeah. Don't forget the old G/F sharp as well, which leads to an E minor for what I call connecting chords. Yeah, so we go. And like I was saying with this one, this is a lovely G major 7. Yeah. If I do that with the index finger and take the pinky off, that's almost like the equivalent of a G7, but a major 7 version. Yeah? But it's a lovely sounding chord. And that's the way I kind of see my G. Now, the other one that we can use, actually, which is worth putting in there, remember, because this belongs to this chord. These change with every shape that we're going to use. But I want to show you this 4 here. If you've ever come across the G grip like this. So there's this way playing a G, which is what I call the Dylan. This is the Oasis G, and this is what I kind of think of as being a folky G. Yeah. Now what you do is you put your first finger on that 1st fret of the B string there, right? Now I've got a 3rd present, so this becomes an add 11. But if I get rid of that 3rd there, that is now a G sus 4. Lovely sounding chord. What I like to do as well is merge chords together. This note here is the 6th. Now, really, if you think to yourself, hang on, that's a C in 2nd inversion. Look, there's a C with the 5th in the bass. It's a C/G. That's great. And then a G like this. And to be fair, guys, I love to play a G just like this. Muting out the A string, don't play the E string, thin E string down here. Ring out the D, G, and B strings there. So if I play it like that, that's a G. It just shows you what you can get away with. It's just utilising those open strings here. If I move that over there, you can see the G shape. I'm just using that there, not playing that B there, and I'm not thinking about the E string there, so I'm just playing that. And then if I want that second inversion C, then all I need to do is put these two fingers on. So it's going from a G to a C. Look how economical this is. You're playing a song and it goes G, C, G, C, G, C. If you played a G like this, look at the hand movement. How much movement you've got to make to get there. Whereas if you do this version, all you need to do is focusing on putting these two fingers on here. And really, that's just like an A minor 7 shape there. So you can see how we can utilise that there, that simple G. Although it might feel like cheating, the chord police will say, well, that's not a good way to play a G. And you think to yourself, I've got to play the full shape, otherwise I'm not doing it right. There's so many ways to play these chords. And that's what we're looking at here. So the map is telling us where the safe zones are to put our fingers, where not to put our fingers as well. So let me get on to the next chord, A minor. Now, because I've plotted all my notes from my G major already into my circle of thirds, I just start at the A and I go, all right, it's chord 2. That makes sense. G's chord 1, A minor's chord 2. I go A, C, and E. Those are my 3 notes that I need. So this is going to be A minor. I need an A, a C, and an E. Those are my 3 notes. I'll look at my map here. There isn't an A on the E string, but there is an A on the A string, which is why it's called an A string. So that's where A lives there. We're going to look and see if we've got another A. And you just think about it with the octave. Well, I know that my caged octaves work across here. A shape, really, if you know how the caged shapes work, then the A shape only really lives on 5 strings there, but this is a way for you to add more notes to it in the bass. So we've done the A, we need to find the C. Let's look at the C. So we had that C there, and then we have this C here. So we're going to put that C there. That'll do the job. The next one we want is this E. We've got an E here, we've got an E here, and that helps me to plot out these notes. So if I've got 1 note per string, because that's what happens with chords. Ordinarily, we don't play the E string with this shape, but you can see it spells it out there. A, C, and E. Well, let me just pull the guitar in again. This is the good old A minor. Yeah. I'm just playing these 5 strings here. First things first with this, right? And this is involving a technique called vamping. If you want the vamp to do vamping, what you can do is take fingers off. You can even take the whole chord off, because like I said, all the open strings are available in this key. Listen to that. I strum the open strings from the A string down, string 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm getting my thumb over the top to mute the thick E string as well. And because those notes are on the map, I'm not breaking any rules. I'm safe. Now, I don't have to do all of them. I could be discerning and just say, let me just do this here. I'm going to take off this here, this 5th. And I'm hammering on that. I'm hammering from the open D to the E string, yeah? And I'm playing a bum ditty, Carter family sort of strum, where it's bass on the A, down up on the D, G, B, and E strings there. Now what I could do, if I want to create some movement there, is I can take that C and I can do it on there, C to the B. see? So, or just take that off and just substitute it. I'll just have an A sus2 like that. There's a lovely A sus2. Go to one of my G's that I had before. Now, doesn't that sound all big and open? But that's to bring it back home to the chord that it actually is there. Now, what I really like about this, in fact, if I do this. Yeah, you can see I'm hammering from the C to the D and from the B to the C there. Yeah, Tenacious D, if you know that one, tribute. But also, we have this pinky free, so look at the route that the pinky can take, and that's what I'm looking at here, guys. I'm looking at that A minor, I'm thinking, I can put the pinky here, I can put the pinky here, I can put it here, and if I stretch over, I can put it here, I can put it here as well, okay? So let's just do that. Put it over here. Now this, that's the root on the open string. Put my pinky on, that's the third, because it's a C. And then the open E is the fifth, which I can have in there. Put that G on, that's the seventh of this chord. Okay, we can... And if you know that this is available as a bar chord, then you know that this is going to affect your shapes there as well, guys. So it's a gift that keeps on giving us, this one. Now, I can be really clever. This is one of my favourite chords. I've got my A minor there, but I have these extra notes up here that I was playing when I played that G. When I was playing that G thing, I was using these two notes up here. Can I add them to the A minor? Yes, I can. And I get this A minor, add 9. Can even add that G in the bass there. Okay, so, but that's all from this, and I'm just seeing that A minor chord. Yeah? But that'll give you a different feeling. So you've got to weave these notes in and amongst each other. So be really liberal, and the thing is to just explore these. But that's the A minor there, guys, yeah? You could even look at this. This is lovely. If you want those bass notes in there. So that's the A minor there. So you've got lots you can do. You can utilise the thumb on those bass notes. And if I play that like that, I'm actually, if I put my thumb over there, I end up playing Wobbly Bob. That's an F sharp half diminished. That's chord 7 there. So you can see it's very close to the A minor, but you put that F sharp in the bass there, that would make sense. If I showed you on the circle diagram here, there's A minor. Yeah, if I put the F sharp in the bass, you see how these notes all start to blend into each other. They're stacked upon each other. So F sharp, A, C, E is your Wobbly Bob chord, chord 7. But you can name the chord because you know what's going on there. That's the good stuff. The next chord we're going to do is B minor. Let's look at B minor. We can see that B minor is a B, a D, and an F sharp. Let's just put it up here for a little notice for ourselves. B, D, and F sharp. Now, if I look at my map, we've got B. We can see that this shape is going to be a bar chord. We can play it as a bar chord, or we don't have to play it as a bar chord. It's completely up to you. You can play it as an inversion. That's the B minor shape ordinarily. But If I take my first finger off, slide it back here, switch my fingers, it's our A minor shape, guys. We're just moving it up 2 frets, so it's exactly the same thing. We don't have to play the full shape. You don't even have to bar over it because you can get all the notes that you need inside the inside 4 strings. You don't need to play the E strings because they're not part of it. So B, got an F sharp here, right? We've got a B here. That's a power chord. And there's the 3rd, the minor 3rd, and we get a 5th here. So you can play it like that, play it like that. If the 5th here is transparent, we might not even need it. It's not important. I'm just plot those out on this. We've got a B, F sharp here, B here, D here, and then we've got the F sharp here. Now that's your traditional shape that you're going to come across, and we would bar across this fret here. But let me just draw the shape in for you. What's really useful to spot is this little pattern here. Look for these little patterns. They lead your eye. Look, you see in between the A minor and there, that B minor. That's just transposing the same shape up. But look at this here, guys. I've got this note that's on that string and this note that's here. So I've got lots that I can play around with. I've got this F sharp here, and I can have this open string here. I can have this string here. Now I do need to have that D in there somehow if I want to make sure I've got a B minor chord. But let me just put that one in there as well, because that's one we can double up on. So let me just show you what I mean by this. So we've got that. There's the B minor chord. Can take that finger off there. And if I move this up here, I get some mysterious thing going on here, but we'll just play that B minor there. Those notes all go. The reason that sounds a bit awful is because of that tritone that we get there between the C and the F sharp. But it's an interesting sound. In the right context, it's something that you can use, okay? So we've got... Now the thing is, what I could do is I can carry on down my scale and go to this G. This is one of the lessons actually in the book. Go to the F sharp. That one might not be the best one. That's sort of out of the equation with that, but you can see how that works. Okay, so the map is telling us what notes we can play, and what we do is we take our shape and we modify the shape to allow these notes into the sound of the chord. And this is a favourite way for me for playing a B minor 7. I just play it like that. Is that an easy way to play a B minor 7? This is a cheat. You could do this. You could even get away with that. That's going to be a B minor 11. Yeah, it's 2 fingers. It looks like an A7. So that's the B minor 7 there, guys, because we've got the B here, which is the root. We've got the D here, which is the 3rd. Then we've got the flat 7 here, which is the 7th of the chord. We've got a B, which is another root note. And then we've got the 11th here. But if I can iron it out like this, this is why, you know your B7, this bluesy B7, everybody should know this one. If you just take that index finger off, it becomes a B minor 7 cheat, if you will. So if you struggle with getting to the B minor, which is this one, you just play this. Add that note there, that 5th flattens it out a little bit. But like I say, you don't need to know the names of the chords, just play the shapes. Is it on the map? Now, here's another one. If you look at altering the B minor, yeah, remember this applies to the A minor shape as well. Then what I'm doing is I'm opening to that flat 7 here, which I had in that cheap B minor 7. This is a B minor 7 using a bar chord, and this is a B minor 7 using an open chord voicing. Not much difference. That's just a bit smoother, I feel. So you can play it like that. Or you can play it like that, and you can say to yourself, there's the root, there's the flat 7, there's the 3rd. Full B minor, B minor 7, B minor 7 is a shell chord. It's a drop one. Yeah, or this one here. So there's loads of different ways we can look at this. And just like the way you can do with this B7, so here's a little trick with a B7. There's the root. We can think of this as being the 5th. You're still doing that bum ditty strum, the Carter family. So it's bass note, down, up, bass note, down, up, bass note, down, up, bass note, down, up. Now I can do the same thing with that B minor. So I can think, okay, I want this chord to sound a bit obtuse. Okay? It's up to you if you want to see the intervals. I recommend seeing the intervals. But this, to me, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking that's a B minor chord. That's the full shape, but this is a massive mutation of it. So you start to get this shape, and you might pull a shape and you think, what the heck is that? How do you name it? But the thing is, what you are accounting for it is it close to this shape or is it closer to another shape? Are they interchangeable? They can be interchangeable. We're going to move on to another chord. We're going to look at C major. And if we look at our circle of thirds, the root of a C major chord is going to be a C. The 3rd is going to be an E, and then the 5th is going to be a G. So super. Those are our ingredients to make up the chord from the key of G major. So we've got a C, E, and G. And you might be thinking to yourself, hang on, Ricky, isn't that the same as in C major? Yes, exactly. Any major or any minor chord can be in 3 keys. C major could be chord 1 in C major, it could be chord 5 in F major, and it can be chord 4 in G major. So we know that the C chord has got a C, E, and a G. Let me just write these out. Now guys, if you're in PDF Club, we've got pretty ones already done there, and there's some other stuff as well relating to the other full chord, what we can apply to that. So here's the C chord that we all know and love. Right, now you can look at the map, and the main thing is, look at this. This is doing nothing. This is like hiring some guys to help build a wall, and one of them's just standing there smoking cigarettes and on his phone. So let's put him to work. What we could do is make him work on these 2 strings here. So look, this is a C, and I can put it on here. This is a G, which is actually just another 5th. You can see there's a G there, which is another 5th. So if we put that pinky on there, that's still a C chord, but this is taking away actually one of those thirds. This always sounds a lot rounder and resolved than that. That sounds a bit dull. Can you hear that when you hit that thin E string at the end? Yeah, whereas this one, it's uplifting. It's really, really nice because we've got this root and 5th here. But I can also put that here. If that's the root note, that's the 2nd, which is also the 9th. Now that's nice. If you wanted to exploit the B string here, we've got this note here, which is the 9th, the root here, and then the open B, which is the 7th. Yeah, so you can hear. I mentioned that this was the 9. There's the C, C, E, G. There's another G there, but that's where the 9 would live. So that's a C add 9. Look, I should play you that one. This is a lovely sounding chord. I can take these 2 fingers off here. Can I get away with that? Can I put this F sharp on and get some mysterious sounds in there? That ends up being a sharp 4. And I'm getting a Lydian sound here. You could even... There's the C. I'm borrowing this note here, the sharp 4 again, which is a similar sound to that, but it's just a bit darker. Now, like I say, the cool thing is that we can do with this, open strings are fair games, and the C is wonderful for this. Yeah, so that lives there. And I'm hammering on and pulling off with that. It's also going to show me how the chords move down. So we've already done the A minor. There's the A minor. There's the C. Yeah? But I want to think to myself, I'm still playing a C. I'm keeping my index finger on there. I'm going to utilise that B because I know I'm moving to an A here to get the A minor. So I'm moving between two chords, but I'm playing a transition between them. Can you hear that? I can move through those bass notes there as well. So that is the C chord. There's loads you can do with that. Just keep it simple. Use these grips. If you struggle with the C chord, I know a lot of students, beginners especially, find that this shape can be tricky. If you do it so your chord's just in one fret, you find it's a lot easier. It's a 2-finger version. It's not as obvious that it's a major, but it will do you. Yeah, if you want to sing a song, there's a G. There's a G. Right, 1 finger. There's the C. There are so many songs that these guys are in. Now, the D chord is going to be an embarrassment of riches. The D starts on a D, obviously. It has an F sharp as its third, and it has an A as its fifth, going around the cycle of thirds. So D, F sharp, A. These are the notes of my chord. So we've got this open D. The D shape is a 4-string chord. We generally don't play these, but we do in practicality. When you look at it from a caged chord perspective, that's what a D shape takes up space-wise on the neck. But we do use the A string and we do use the E string to get other notes out there. So D is my root note. I know my other D is here using a caged octave. I know that my A is here, and I know that my F sharp is here. And you can see none of these notes are different. The pattern's still the same. The Indiana Jones map has not changed, guys. Now I've got this. There's the D chord. And you think to yourself, hang on, is this one a major 7 or is it a dominant 7th? And you look on the map and you can see there, it goes down. There's the root, major 7, dominant 7. So there's the flat 7 there. You can do a little hammer on that. I can put that G on there. That's a D7 sus4. But going back to as a proper D, the one for me really to spot with the D shape, and this is the melodic string for the shape. Look at the frets that we can have there. We can have the open E string and we can have the 3rd fret there. And because this is the 3rd, that's the sus2 and that's going to be the sus4. This is really cool. Look, so I've got that. There's the sus2. There's the D. Which is nice. You've already got movement going on there. Now, I do think you need to keep that root note anchored on there, but what you can do... Okay, now look. I've got my pinky. I can put this in here. Now that's a B. Or you can... So you can start to see where patterns come from. There's that F sharp again. There's the F sharp, there's the A, there's the D, there's the triad. Moving up into the next shape, which is going to be the C shape there. I'm going to move this finger along that second fret. Look how I can move it along. I'm just going to experiment and see what it sounds like with the notes on the second fret and the open string notes and see what happens. So what I can do is I can play a D, move away from a D, and then come back to a D just to kind of bring it home. But I'm just holding a portion of the D to create the common tones that I need so that when I go back to it, it really resolves strong on it. Now this is the one that you need to know, and you can see that when we play a D, it uses this F sharp. This is an F sharp on the thin E string, so if we chuck it over onto the thick E string, we get D/F sharp. You can play it with the D grip on, put the thumb over the top to get it, right? Or you can play it like this. This looks very much like that B-7 shell chord grip that I showed you before, but with the first finger over like this. Which is a nice chord. It wants to resolve to a G, yeah. Or down to an E minor. Look at how that works. I'm following the map for my bass notes. I might think to myself, do you know what? I'm going to think of that as being a D/G, but I could also think of that as being a G sus2. Which one is it? Depends on what chord is coming next, probably. I think that's really, really cool. So there's lots of movement. But that one there, that's a lovely little connector. It gets used all the time in songs. Okay, so that's the D. The next one we're going to do, E minor. Let's look at the circle that's going to show us. We start on the E, chord 6. So this is going to be the root of E minor, the third of E minor, and the fifth of E minor. So we've got E, G, and B. Lonely third there, one lonely minor third. There's chords hidden in there, and you'll start to see these. And then when you look at this and you think, well, this is a scale, guys, and you'll start to see your chord shapes in your scales. This is why I'm showing you this. E minor. Right, well, E minor can do a hell of a lot of things. One of the things that I like with this is hammering from that fourth, the open A string, to that fifth, from the A to the B. Now, if I want to, I think to myself, oh, hang on, the G is the third, isn't it? It's the flat third. Can I have that one there? Can add that into the equation, and like I was showing you before, how the G to the D over F sharp goes down to the E minor. This is voice leading. Hang on, we've got the old lazy employee here. We need to make him do some work. There's the minor 7. Yeah, E minor 7 is here. So I can take that off and I can put it on. Now, E minor with that C on doesn't sound great. So you've got to figure these out and figure out which ones work for you. Now, that doesn't sound great, that third on there, because we're doubling up the third. And I don't think it works really well unless we borrow this here, the 2 fingers that we need from a G chord. So this is why this works here. So if we take that G chord, and switch it to be an E minor there using these 2 fingers, then we get an E minor 7 here. Okay, so there's the E minor 7. Look how easy the E minor 7 changes to that G. Yeah. Another one that I like is if I go up onto this F sharp here. This is a moody E minor. If we played that B there and we played this F sharp, this is adding the 9. If you struggle with the stretch, then use your pinky. It looks like a power chord, but all the strings that I'm not fretting are open. The E string's open, the G string's open, the B string's open, and the thin E string's open. And then if you're clever and you're going to put the 7 on as well, look, put that flat 7 on as well. Or you get kind of one of those sort of Coverdale Page sort of chords. And then you can switch to the G as easy as putting that finger on there. So going through the chords, G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. But now we've got different modes of playing these chords. B minor. And then do like that. You can bash away on that note there. This is actually an E minor in first inversion. There's the E minor, there's that flat third. So I'm just going to strum all 6 strings. Take it off. Hang on, I just spotted something else. There's the E minor. And this is the thing that's going to tell you. Look, if I put my pinky on there, that's the 3rd, that's the 4th. So I get an E sus4. People associate a sus4 with the major shape, but suspensions work with minor chords as well. This is going in PDF Club, so that's a neat version instead of my scruffy scroll. And then also we have another sheet that spells out the full chord and tells you what other notes you can have in there so that you can name the notes as well. It's a lofty lesson. I could teach you fluff, I could teach you smoke on water or whatever, but I'd rather you had something meaningful as part of your music education diet. This is why I do the class every Wednesday. Guys, just want to remind you, you are learning guitar for yourself.